What's up, YouTube? This is Giant Jigglypuff 3 here, and I am making a video to first explain what the decomp actually is, to show you how to set up the decomp, and 3, a small demo on how you can make your first ROM hack. Now, this is not a video on how to set up WSL, it is not a video on how to set up VS Code, and it is not a video on how to read and write in C. There are so many resources online. There are so many ways to customize those things. And so I'm not going to be going over all of them, just throwing that out there. But what I will do first is explain what the decomp actually is. So I do have like a little image I made. So decomp is short for decompilation. Basically, whenever the code was written for Banjo-Kazooie, it was written in the human readable language C. Now, your N64 does not read C. Instead, it reads a compiled version called assembly. In our case, it is MIPS. And so there is a process from C to assembly called compiling. So assembly is editable. You can make edits to it. You can, do a lot of different things. You can basically do anything you want here that you could do in C. It's just a pain. So what the decomp is an attempt to revert it back into C code, which, by the way, spoiler alert, has been done. It is shiftable as well for the most part. And that is the decompiling method, right? In order to convert it back to C. Now, we can make changes here, and whenever it compiles again, it will also bring in our changes. So it's really nice. I'll go ahead and show off that later on what that looks like. But until then, I'm going to be going over the structure of the repo itself. Now, I do want to specify, if you are new to the decomp and you don't know what half these things mean, like if you don't know what a makefile is, right? Don't worry, there are only 2 folders you really need to understand. The first one is the source folder, where basically you see stuff like BGS, CC, CCW, FP, like these are all levels, as well as like stuff like boot, core 1, core 2, cutscenes, and empty level. And you'll also see fight because the final battle is its own level, right? And then I will be going over basically just the enums file, right? It's short for enumerators, but I will be going over this in just a little bit. So gonna go over to here real quick. There are 3 parts of the game that are loaded at all times, essentially, right? Or I'm gonna put that in like a little asterisk next to it. Core 1, this is the basic C library. So this is a lot of your, how do you do math, right? How do you determine the floor compared to where you're standing, right? This is how to find specific angles. This is what stuff do we need to load? Like, do we need to load this guy right now? Do we need to load this guy right now? There is a boot file that like loads into this, but for the most part, you will be looking into core 1 for like how things are loaded. Okay. Core 2, this guy is also known as the game engine. So anything that you can find in multiple levels will be found in Core 2. This includes the pause menu. This includes entities like bottles or enemies that show up in multiple levels, like Sir Slushes that show up in Freezersy Peak, Click Clockwood, and the Lair, right? Those are all in Core 2. This is Banjo specific things. This is coding specific things, right? Lastly, we have the level file, or a level file. Now, level's a little misleading because it could also include like the cutscenes, right? But basically, depending on where you are, this guy will change. So if you are in Bubblegloop Swamp, it'll load up that level specifically, and the things that are specific to that level, like Croctus, like Flibbits, those will only load for that level. If you leave the level, right, go like the Lair as an example, it will deload that level and load up the next level. So it will deload Bubblegloop Swamp and load up the Lair. Now, the reason why the decomp is important, right, is that this start and this start are more or less hard coded. I'm gonna put that in quotes in assembly. And with the decomp, we can make changes to this, like the size of it, right? But not overlap something. Like things get shifted over. So, with that being said, let me go over what the folder structures are for source. So like let's say we go into something called Mumbo's Mountain. In here we have some files and then we have subfolders. Actually, let me go ahead and check core 2 because it has a lot of more subfolders for you to understand, right? But it has a bunch of files. Some of them are labeled. You'll see like BA key, you'll see BA sound effects, whatever, right? But you'll also see code underscore and then a bunch of numbers, right? For the most part, these are the ones that are not labeled yet, or if they are, documented, right? Like it's not fully understood what it is, or it just hasn't been like documented yet, right? So, as best as we can, we try to organize them into folders. So, like this one is for animations. We have BA. Actually, let's go over BS first. BS is Banjo State. I'm gonna put it like that. I don't actually know what BS stands for, but I'm gonna consider it as Banjo State. And you'll see a bunch of like Banjo's moves as well as like the transformation moves. Okay. BA supports that. So as an example, your carried objects, right? When you're in the carry state or like your physics, right? These support the BS folder. We have GC. These are things that are like dialogue popping up or like the menu. It's like an overlay more or less. I don't know what GC stands for. I am so sorry. NC is camera stuff. Don't ask me what NC stands for. I think it's new camera. I could be wrong. I don't know. But look around. You'll figure things out. You're a smart person. Hopefully, if you've gotten this far, right? But just play around, like look through these folders, right? Whatever's documented, easier to understand. Whatever's not, you just try your best. Now, an easy way to look for what you're looking for is that enumerator file I showed you before. This has listed every known file progression thing, every volatile flag, every transformation, every level, every map, music, assets, sound effects, whatever we could find, right? And let's say like you were to just search the repo right now, you will find where it is known to be used. So try to use this file as much as you can. Cool. Now that we have that set up, I'm going to go ahead and try to show you, and hopefully this works, what it's like to set up the decomp, right? So I do have some instructions. We have two sets. If you go to the decomp and you scroll down, there are instructions here. As well as Busy Cola has instructions on this article. So shout out to Busy Cola. I do think that there's like an error there here or two, but for the most part, it does work. But I'll be going over these Linux dependencies because I am using WSL. So let's go ahead and run. I'm going to run these one at a time, by the way. Whenever I have run these all together, I've run into some issues, and I don't know if that's just like a thing, like maybe it's just me. I'm gonna do this off screen just in case. Cool. You'll see that it installed that one. Let's go ahead and do the next one, just copying of this guy. Right, we're gonna just click enter. We're gonna proceed with a standard installation, nothing super fancy. You'll see that my stuff's already like downloaded here. Sorry about that. I've played around with the decomp before. We're gonna do this submodule recursive. Oh, I'm not sorry, my bad. Oh wait. Okay, sorry. I just installed things. I didn't actually even clone the repo. So let me actually let me clone the repo real quick. All right, and you'll see now I have this Banjo folder, right? Which now I can run the submodule one. My bad. I got a little ahead of myself. Okay. And then I'm gonna go back to here. We're gonna set up the environment. So we're gonna go to here. We're gonna run this guy. And then lastly, we're going to run this environment. And it should be collecting all of the dependencies. Now, I like to do stuff in VS Code, so we can do code-d dot, and it'll open up this folder in VS Code. Cool. I was already like looking at some stuff before, so it was already loaded like that. Nice, interesting. Let me just make sure that it is loading up properly the environment right here, the virtual environment. Great. Cool. And you'll notice that we are starting, like the default branch is the master folder. Not my choice in words, but whatever. That's just how things were when it was created. However, you also need to copy over a version of the ROM, and it'll show you here. It has to be named base ROM dot, and then whatever version you're using. So you can use like PAL or whatever, right? But I don't think 1.1 or Japanese are supported yet. So just a heads up on that. But I'm gonna go ahead and move my ROM over. No, I will not be giving anyone the ROM. That is not legal. If you know, you know, right? So let me go ahead and move over my copy of the ROM, right? So now I have it in this folder. I'm gonna go ahead and just, I'm not actually gonna keep this folder, right? But I'm gonna go ahead and do a, give this guy permissions or whatever, right? Just to make sure that like, things can be read in it. Now you don't actually have to do that. I think that if there is an error saying like it can't read the file, then just give it permissions to read the file. But we're gonna be checking this S1 sum base ROM, and just to like make it easier to see, I will be doing it here. So you'll see that it starts with 1FE1 and ends in 75D7A. If I were to go to the top of here, we see it says 1FE1 and ends in 75DA. So I'm pretty sure that that's the correct file, right? Going back to here, now all we have to do is say make, and it should start making the ROM. So this is making the ROM, by the way. What it's essentially doing is it is extracting out all of the assets of the game, and then also linking where the RAM is, right? Like of like certain functions, right? So that whenever you make edits, it will check to see the difference. At the very end, we should see a jiggy with the word the letters OK. So this is all fine. This is all normal. There's a lot of text on screen. But yeah, here we go. Here's our jiggy, and here is Banjo US whatever. Okay, so we have successfully set up the decomp. Now, I'm going to be going over how to make your first ROM hack. So hopefully this will guide people on how to do it. So we're going to go for, first of all, a very easy edit we can make. So I happen to know that there is a function called bootup. Or nope. Boot. Okay, I happen to know where it is. Don't worry. If I go to source, I go to core 1, and I go to code_0, right? I can scroll down until I see, oh, it's called get default boot map. That's why I couldn't find it, right? And this is the starting map. It's the N64 logo walking, followed by like, you know, the buzz bomb and everything, and then the rare logo, whatever, right? So I want to just boot up the game at file select. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to include. I'm going to go to the enumerator file. Remember this guy? We're going to just quickly search for the start rareware, and this is where all of the maps are, right? For specifically the file select, I'm going to look up the word file select, and here it is. And I'm going to go here, and I'm going to replace this with file select. Okay? So now if I run make, this will only check the files that I have modified to see if there's a difference. So if I were to run the word make, you can now see at the bottom, it says base ROM, US, whatever, differs. And if you're ever wondering, oh my gosh, like I made some kind of edit, I don't know where, besides looking at your, what changes you made here, obviously, right? You can also go to a file called first diff. Now, run this guy as a Python file, and oh, you need to have like an expected, but so just follow the instructions here to like have something to compare it to of what you expect, and then it can show you where the first difference is. Usually I don't use it, so but it is there as an option if you need it. But we already made this file, right? Now we need to copy it over to our folder in order to do whatever we want to, right? So however you want to move it from WSL into your folder, I made an alias for this called CP-ROM. I'm gonna go ahead and run that. It's not in the correct folder, my bad. So I'm just actually gonna here's what I can do. It's trying to find my build. So if I go to build, I should find the is this the modified version? No, hold up. Yeah. US version 1. This is the modified version. Okay. So you're gonna take this file and you're gonna move it over to your mods. So let me find my my ROMs folder. Where is that? Where do I move it to? Okay. Let me do that real quick, and then I'm going to reveal in File Explorer, and then I'm just gonna move it over. And I'm not showing you this part. That's fine. It's safe, right? Okay. And now I'm going to open up my ROM. It's this guy right here, and you will notice that we are going to start. Oh, my bad. My N64 always messes up on the first time. I should have checked that beforehand. My bad. Or I just crashed it. Never mind. There we go. Cool. So it just took a little bit to load. My Project 64 always messes up the first time I load it. So you'll notice that we skipped the entire cutscene, right? And we went straight here. Now I want to do a bit of a harder challenge, right? So let's say I want to make it so that whenever I jump, I get an egg. So where would we look for that? I'm going to go into source, and then jumping is a move Banjo does. So remember, going back to this picture over here, anything that's like Banjo related that's in the entire game, right, is in core 2. So we're gonna go to core 2. Banjo's moveset, BS, Banjo state, right? And we're gonna look for the word jump. So where is jump? This guy right here. Now, there are multiple parts to each action. There's the initialize. So here's the initial function that, like, the setting up the parameters for the action you're doing. The update, which is like over time, it updates every tick. And then the end, this is how it ends, right? Like the last things it has to do. So inside the jump, what we're going to do is we're just going to say we want to add an egg every time. In order to do that, there's a function we can look for. If I say item underscore increase, okay, I can find, like, let's say like this one, right? And you'll notice how there's an item called health in here. So I'm going to just shove this in here somewhere. Let's just say, actually, let's put it in the initialize because we only want it to happen once. Whenever we jump one time, we want to also get an egg. So I'm going to put it in here. Okay. And then we want to change this health. Let's go to the enumerators. We want to give us an egg, right? So eggs is this guy right here. We're going to go back to here, and we're going to replace that for eggs. Now I'm going to go ahead and say I want to make that again. You'll see it says differs. That's fine. Going back to my build, and it's in the US version 1 folder. This guy right here. Oh, nope, don't do that. This guy, reveal on file explorer is what we want. My bad. And we're going to copy that over to our ROM folder, wherever you have it. Let's put it in here. Okay. And then I'm going to load it up. Cool. So I'm going to go ahead and just start a new game, right? Let me go ahead and erase this one. I've already seen the cutscenes, so it's going to allow me to skip them. I'm just so used to the recomp maybe that like I'm so like used to it loading faster. But now whenever we jump, we gain an egg. Yay! So let me show you what happens whenever we change it from the init, or you can even do like the end, right? Either of those to the update function, right? Let's change that. Oh, I'm in the wrong folder. There we go. My bad. Moving it back to here. Okay. Let me run N64. So remember, we changed it from the initialize function to the update function, right? So now whenever I jump, I gain an egg for every tick of me jumping. So if you're ever like, oh my gosh, I crashed the game, keep in mind what you're doing. If you like load up too many things at once, it may overload your game. Now, there are so many useful functions that I don't have time to list them all. Hopefully this was a good start. This video is already like 20 minutes long. If you have any questions, you can go to the Banjo-Kazooie modding server called Hackpack, and then ask questions under coding, and hopefully someone will be able to help you. Good luck, have fun, be creative, and don't be afraid to like break something. It's like an emulation. Worst case scenario, Project 64 says your game crashed. So just have fun with it, okay? Good luck, everyone.